Okay, I don't have a lot of time because we want to hear the speakers, but I do want to talk about first the vision, right? So I almost feel like an ophthalmologist. It's about vision. So the problem is when you have vision, oftentimes it's the hindsight, right? I wish I bought property around Dulles Airport 30 years ago. But really, from what we're doing here today, is the insight and the foresight, right? Insight is I'd like to get to know Comstock if I want to build in Herndon, right, and help you build it. What's the foresight? The foresight is what we're going to talk about today. What is the vision? Where do we go in the future? So I do want to talk quickly about three different things, and it has nothing to do with Metro. It has to do with pillars, it has to do with Greek letters, and Italian marble, which I have right here. I stopped by Fairfax Marble and Granite, and I borrowed this. So the first one is the pillars, and some of you know what I'm talking about. It's the three pillars that I've really worked on for the chamber. It's about commerce, community, and communications. The commerce is the return on investments about how do we do business. The community is how do we work together. It's where our employees live. It's where we need to work and help the community as we grow, make sure we can have a nice work-life balance. And then for the last part is communication. It's how do we work with our elected officials, the transmit and communication, which I do well with a lot, but especially well with Herndon and the mayor. So thank you very much. And Bill said I should talk about him too, so thank you, Bill. Yeah. No, so it's a lot of fun, but commerce, community, communication, three pillars. Keep harping on that. That's what we're doing. In fact, we have the In a Word series, the luncheon series, and we talk about each one of those as well. Now, Greek letters. Usually everybody knows Alpha and Omega. It depends on what, if you went to a fraternity or sorority, but the Alpha and Omega is the beginning and the end. I suggest we think about Omega Alpha, and Omega is the end of the silver line, which is really our beginning. And I'd like us to really challenge ourselves to think about how we take that end of the silver line and launch it into the beginning. And where do you get with the end of the silver line? Dulles Airport, international access. 70% of the traffic, for the world goes through the internet for what we're doing out there with the data centers. And really it's about those natural resources that we have in our community, which is not where all these little quarries are, but it's our people. We have an unbelievable educated workforce. We have folks that are dedicated and disciplined. We have a tremendous opportunity here at the end of the silver line to create something very, very special. Which brings me to the last part, Italian marble. So, you're not going to know where I'm going with this one. So anybody ever know about the middle of the 1400s, there was a cathedral, and they decided to get Carrara marble, 17 feet tall, 6 tons, and they were going to make a little statue, and they would put it way up high, so they needed it pretty big. And so they had this artist come in, started to chip away at it, started with the feet, didn't get very far, then he stopped. Had another artist come through, started working on it, he goes, forget it. The piece is flawed, there's cracks, the whole thing's gonna fall apart. Just never mind. Well, the cathedral's sitting there looking at it. We bought this huge piece of marble, spent a lot of money. What are we gonna do? And then this guy shows up, 26 years old, and he says, I got an idea. And he builds and chips away, and what was underneath there was David. Not David the king. Usually when they did statues of David, they did art pieces of David, they usually depict him as the king. He depicted David when he had his right hand tucked under. Anybody ever look in that hand? It's a stone. And his left hand is up at his shoulder, and what is it? A slingshot, right? This is the David from David and Goliath. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our own Carrara marble and chip away. What we have before us is this untapped area called Dulles region that we will chip away, and we're gonna be a little bit like David, and there are a few Michelangelos in here, not for the millennials, it's not the Ninja Turtles. And so I think we can really create something here. But what's important is we don't try to replicate things that have been done before. This is not a matter of trying to create Reston Town Center or Mosaic. We cannot have every stop look the same. So we need to work together. So this effort that Georgia has put together allows us to stop, focus, think about it. We've got some time, but let's figure out where we're going as a region because we can make a tremendous impact. And we're really excited to kick it off today with our first Metro Monday. So thank you very much.
Good morning, or good afternoon. Delighted to be here. Again, my name is Rodney Lusk. I work at the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. I'm going to take a few minutes and really talk about kind of what's happened with the Silver Line in respect to Tyson's Corner first, and then we're going to move to this discussion with regard to Herndon, and we'll get into a little bit of a precursor to what will be happening at the innovation area as well. Now, before I get into my talking points, I'll have to do one obligatory slide, which talks about Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. So my boss, Dr. Gordon, and Jan Moll is here, so he can attest that I actually did talk about the Fairfax County EDA. So we are the organization that is focused on promoting Fairfax County as the leading premier business location. We have free and confidential services that we provide to our companies. We have 3 marketing divisions. As you've heard, I head up our national marketing division, which is focused on outreach across the U.S. We have an international marketing division, which Jan Moll is the director for, which is focused on our outreach across the 5 overseas markets. And then we have a business diversity division also focused on looking at ways to expand and grow companies in our base that's focused on women-owned, minority, and veteran-owned firms. So with that, I'll say our focus is to expand the commercial tax base so that we can provide jobs in the local economy and that we can also provide critical services that our residents need. And I'm recognizing that John Faust is in the audience as well, so supervisor from Drainesville District is here. Just want to make sure we did recognize you as well. So again, the effort is to expand the commercial tax base and grow our businesses. So what are the advantages? Very quickly, we have advantages for Fairfax County which are unique, not only to Tysons, but to Herndon, Reston, and the rest of the county. What we have is leading technology companies. We have over 8,900 companies that are located here that are involved in technology. We have access to the U.S. federal government, which many people will say is a great opportunity for our companies that are involved in government contracting. We have the opportunity to receive more than $24 to $25 billion a year in federal procurement dollars to those companies. Strong business-friendly environment. We are focused on providing an outstanding quality of life for our residents as well. So what are the major employers in Tysons? I'll go quickly. You'll know these. MicroStrategy, General Dynamics, MITRE, Gannett, Hilton Hotels. What we've seen over the years is a pretty significant introduction of companies into the Tysons market. Some of those that are not involved in government contracting as well. Looking at companies like Intelsat. Cap One is not on here, but looking at the financial services firm as well as maybe Federal Credit Union. So what is Tysons? Tysons is this huge 1,700-acre place that many kind of say it's kind of disjointed, not connected, doesn't really have a there. And what we look at here is kind of these unique nodes, and as you look along the metro station areas, and there's 4 of them depicted, you'll see those concentric circles, which are really important for Tysons, and they're also important for the rest of the Silver Line as it relates to future development. Those concentric circles talk about where the development's going to be located. So when you think about a quarter mile out, half a mile out from the metro station, that is where we're talking about putting the future development. Tysons plan was very arduously discussed. Took more than 4+ years to get it to a place where there was a vision, and that vision is delineated here. I just want to go through a couple of these items. You want a livable urban center, and you really want to focus on urban design. You're looking at a way to make a suburban place more urban. I talked about the location of the TOD with 75% of development focused around the transit station area. 200 jobs and 100,000 residents by 2050 is the goal. And sustainability, looking to have green buildings and other amenities that will make for a sustainable environment. And you want pedestrian-friendly access, and you also want trails for walking and biking. So this is the recommendations of the plan for Tysons, which have led to this profile. So this is the profile today, and this is a profile for 2050, once everything is done. So you go from 100,000 residents to, 100,000 jobs to 200,000 jobs. You go from 27 million square feet to a little more than 50 million square feet. You go from 20,000 residents to 100,000 residents. And this is something that not many people have really talked about, but I think this research university idea, and this is something the plan does talk about very specifically, is that we need to have an academic institution in Tysons. And the reason for that is that you have research that companies can use to develop new innovations and new technologies. And that the way that's going to be done is the partnership between the corporate entities and those academic entities. And in order for that to happen, we're going to need to have a research university in Tysons. Affordable dwelling units, 441 to 5,000 would be the goal. I know we've got a long way to go, and I see a couple folks here who are involved with me in an initiative to try to bring more affordable housing to residents of Fairfax County. And then last, I'll say performing arts. You need culture, you need a sense of place, and really having potentially 2 performing arts centers is the goal with Tysons as well. I'm going to get to Herndon, but what I'm doing is basically putting down a little bit of a background for why the plan for Tysons is going to be instructive for the plan for Herndon as well. So the first project I want to just talk about quickly is Cap 1. Interesting thing about Cap 1 is that building is the largest building in Northern Virginia, second only to the Washington Monument in terms of height. It's got 940,000 square feet, 31 stories. It is a very beautiful facility. But what's more important about Capital One is not that huge building. It's what Capital One is doing. They started with the development looking at the project as a extension of their operation. So it's basically making sure we have the amenities on site that we need. They've extended the thought process, and now what they've said is that we want to bring in some other amenities into our site. And those amenities are going to help us do a number of things. The Wegmans, it's going to help attract folks into the Wegmans. There's a 1,500 seat performing arts center. And there's also a provision ultimately to have workforce and affordable housing on the property as well. Why is this important? It's important because Tysons and anywhere in this country is going to live and die on the fact that we have young workers who want to move into our communities. Young workers, when they go to places for employment, they're not just thinking about the job. They're not just thinking about the building. They're thinking about what are the amenities that are around. What are the things that we can do after work? What are the things that we can do during work? And the beauty here is that there are a number of cultural amenities, open space, and recreational facilities that are going to be provided by Capital One. And I think this is going to help us be a little more, I've been told the word hip and cool, it's out. So my workers who I spend a little bit of time talking to and dealing with tell me the word is trendy. So we're going to be a trendy place for millennials. And I think that Capital One is helping us do that. The next building I want to talk about is the Tysons Center building. And this is the Tysons Corner development, which has really kind of 3 components to it. But it's not really the buildings, again, that I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on the plaza. What Tysons One has done is they've activated an area that connects the hotel, the office, and the residential. And what that has done is it made for a vibrant place for people to come to. And what people are going to do is they're going to listen to concerts. They're going to eat at the restaurants. And try this on a weekday. Go to Tysons One and try to get into Eddie V's, try to get into Barrel and Bushel, try to get into Earl's, and tell me how hard it is. It's hard because people are going into that space and they're spending time there, and it's creating something important. It's creating a community, and that's what developments that are successful, that's what communities are about. Next project I'll talk about quickly is Tysons 2, another building. Again, this is not about buildings. What Tysons 2 has done, which is impressive, is they've built an almost 500,000 square foot building. But what they did that is most impressive to me is that they got a lead tenant, and that tenant is called WeWork. Do you guys know what WeWork is? So WeWork is this co-working facility. What WeWork is going to do is have 90,000 square feet of space inside of that learner building that is going to have hundreds of technology companies in it. Those technology companies are going to have hundreds of young people, and those young people are going to do a number of things. They're going to hopefully grow out of that space that they're in and WeWork, and they're going to need to move into a bigger office space. They're going to also create companies that are interesting and dynamic. And what's that going to do? It's going to give us a bit of what I call innovation cred. What I feel is a bit of a misperception is that we're just a government town. We're just a place that has government contractors. We are, how do I say this delicately, resting on our laurels around that, but that's not true. We have lots of technology here in Fairfax County. We are growing the base of technology firms here constantly as well. And this is going to help us to showcase that. And this opportunity is one that will be unique and special, and it will also do something else. For DC and Arlington, I think they get sort of a rep or a perception for being much more innovative and much more hip. I'm sorry, trendy. So we have an opportunity here to put Tyson's on the map, and that's going to be very helpful, not only for Tyson's, but the rest of Fairfax County. So with that, I'll go quickly here. Tyson's in 2050, Performing Arts Center at Capital One, public spaces like the Tyson's One facility that we talked about, affordable and workforce housing, and an increase of both residents and workers in Tyson's. So I think Herndon has an interesting story as well, right? We've got major employers here. We've got some that I think are fairly well renowned and known: Amazon Web Services, Volkswagen, IBM, Boeing, and the like. So we have an opportunity to leverage those companies to help us become a trendier, cooler, interesting place. So the Herndon Transit Station area is defined, as you can see, by the area that's in the red. We have Fairfax County Parkway to the east. We've got Fox Mill Road to the south, Dulles Toll Road north, and then Centerville Road to the west. So what is the plan recommendations for Herndon? So Herndon is similar to Tyson's. There's a multi-year review that was done, and there was a vision with some adopted language around creating a mixed-use center. So we want to have some of the very similar components that came up in the discussion that I just undertook with Tyson's. We want to have a transit-focused neighborhood and area, so within a half mile of the metro rail locations. We want to encourage pedestrian activity, and we want to sort of enliven the area. So we want people to kind of be active during the day, but we also want them to be active in the evenings, because that's the true hallmark for a vibrant and sustainable community. The TOD goal for the Herndon area is that we have 50% non-residential uses with 50% residential uses, which is based on the full square footage. So you really want to have half and half where possible. The jobs housing balance, the goal is to have about 2.5 jobs per household. Again, you want green, sustainable buildings, very similar to what we saw in the discussion in Tyson's. Multimodal public transportation, and you want pedestrian-friendly paths, trails. You really want to kind of encourage people to bike and walk, and this is something that's really important. Additionally, we see some differences between the current profile and the future profile for Herndon. So today, when you think about Herndon, we have a number of developments that are kind of in that low and medium range for office, with a lot of surface parking or structured parking lots. We don't want to see that going forward. The objective is obviously to have a mixed-use development with higher intensity going forward. The base plan for Herndon today also has office uses at about 0.5 FAR and resident uses up to about 30 dwelling units per acre. Goal going forward is that you'd have an increase in the planned densities from 1.5 to 2.5 FAR. And there's a target in the plan for the Herndon Transit Station, which is to have office development at about 2.1 million square feet. This is for the existing improved and also the new development that would occur. The planned intensity for residential is about 1.5 FAR, so that's around 2,700 residential units. So really there's a push to allow for more residential development. And when you see a couple of my next slides, you'll see the residential component showing its beautiful face. Office should be concentrated, obviously, closest to the metro, because you really want to make it more urban. You want to kind of push the envelope as you have buildings closer to the road, and you have height also closer to that roadway. And then the interesting thing is when you think of parking ratios, and this is something that's always an issue at our offices, and we have companies that come in and they talk about how many parking spaces they need, and they'll say we need 4 per 1,000 or we need 5 spaces per 1,000, and I kind of go, well, are you looking at a transit station area? And in some cases, yeah, we'd love to be near the metro, and we still want 4 or 5 parking spaces per 1,000. And I'm sort of like, well, the intent is that you push the parking down so that you have people actually using the metro. So as you can see, the office space ratio is 2.1 per 1,000, so significantly lower than what people are used to in those suburban office markets. So if you think about where you have a lot of surface parking lots, you're going to be over 4 per 1,000. And then for residential, you're at about 2.4 spaces per 1,000 square feet. So this is kind of the future, and this is a shift. And we're going to start to see what that might look like. But before I get into the first project, I'd like to look at this one Dulles Tower. This is one that we are very excited about. So this is where Amazon has selected to put their expanded Amazon Web Services facility, 400,000 square feet, previously home to Booz Allen Hamilton, and we are glad that they are going to expand and add many, many more jobs to our area. We've been very fortunate that they have made the decision to grow, and this is Amazon Web Services, so let me be clear in saying that. I cannot talk about any other projects that have the word Amazon in them, but I just want to recognize that this is the one that we have posted and noted as a win for Fairfax and Herndon and the larger community. The last thing I'll say about this is that when you look at the stock value for Amazon, a lot of it is really based on the success of Amazon Web Services. So first project here is Tishman's Woodland Park East Development. This is one that is really starting to kind of make that character shift and change in the kind of development profile for the area. So this one is 31 acres approximately. It's got 676 units that are proposed. You'll see 74 townhomes. I call them 2-over-2s, and a couple of folks in my office were like, what do you mean 2-over-2s? So they're basically stacked townhomes. 90 of those 514 apartments are part of this development. What's also important here is the 2 office towers. You'll have roughly 560,000 square feet that'll come as a result of it. And then there's an optional provision for about 200,000 square feet of retail. And the retail is programmed at the street level for the office and then also for the residential. Again, you want to activate. You want to have people coming in, drawing them into the space, and keeping them if they live and work even after hours. Some of the unique other features of the project is that they're including 81 affordable housing units, which I think is a good thing and something that we need to have more of. They're also adding 6.1 acres of public park space, which the plan does call for and ask for additional park uses, and they've got what they call private open space, which is for the users in the apartments and the other housing developments. They're also going to be doing a new street connection, which is the east-west drive, which is going to help us kind of plant that grid of streets, which you'll need as a component of the development here in the area. So the next project is the water view at Woodland Park in Herndon. So this is a project that's really a residential project principally. It is 295 multifamily homes, again, those 2-over-2s, which I described earlier, 50 of those, and then 32 townhomes. So this is establishing a more residential component to allow for that mix of use that we described earlier. So really making sure the vibrancy, and that means if you're going to have residents, you need to have amenities, right? Because the residents are going to look for places to go hang out, they're going to look for places to eat, and they're going to need to have those built in to the project as well. Innovation Station, I won't get into all of this, but I just wanted to just give a little precursor to a couple of things, which I think we will be discussing at the next Metro Monday. But in essence, this is the boundaries, as you can see, north side with the CIT building, south side, Centerville Road being the east connector, the north being the Dulles Access Road, then up to CIT, down to Route 28 on the west, and I'll skip now to a couple of the projects. The first is Innovation Center Drive. So this project is one that is going to certainly be a game changer. And the thing that I like about it is you can see the toll road and you can see the placement of the buildings right up to that toll road. I mean, you can't get more urban in the development model here. And if you notice something I talked about in Tyson's, which is the plaza area, kind of, this is the way that you pull people into the space. This is where you provide the amenities. This is where the kind of the action and the heart of the project is. So the goal here with the Innovation Center South is to, provide 1 million square feet of residential uses. We want to have about 500,000 square feet of office uses, and those are certainly being marketed today. I think you probably have seen this project, I'm certain. But what is also good is they're going to add roughly 104,000 square feet of retail, and then there will be a significant parking garage element, which the county is working through a public-private partnership. The Arrowbrook Center is also in this portion of the Innovation Station project. And again, you'll see roughly 50 acres of land with the opportunity to build 2.3 million square feet of mixed-use development. So we're looking at a total of about 600,000+ square feet for the office component. You're looking at about 100,000+ square feet for the retail component. Again, you got to activate this. You got to bring people into the space. There's a 150,000 square foot hotel that's also proposed, and they are in the process right now of building the single-family attached and detached homes that will be on this site. And then last, I'll mention the Houston Office Partners project. This is one where they've taken two office buildings and made a decision to convert those into residential. So this is the opportunity to convert, because if you think about the situation in Fairfax County, we have a lot of vacant office space. So the question is, what does that office space become? What do you do with it? And in some cases, it might mean taking that office space and turning it into something else. And this is one of the projects where they are looking at making the conversion from office to residential. And that's, again, 866 units. So with that, I'll conclude with this slide. I'll say that Herndon is strategically positioned for future growth. I believe that very simply because it's got metro accessibility. This is pretty easy to champion. It's going to have proximity to retail and other amenities, going back to our conversations about having retail that supports the residents, but also having retail that supports the businesses that are there. We're looking at making walkable, open environments that are both friendly for pedestrians as well as a bicyclist. We want to encourage multimodal transportation. We're looking to have a mixed use of development, and you really want to ensure that you are including housing, and I'd say, again, housing for all in the formulas for that. And then you're creating urban locations, and those urban locations, when they have amenities, will be attractive to employers and employees. So with that, I will conclude my remarks.
Please give Rodney a round of applause. All right. So thank you so much for being here. I want to talk to you a little bit about the town of Herndon. Rodney spent a lot of time telling us all about up and down the Dulles corridor and the area of Herndon that's actually in unincorporated Fairfax County, which is actually larger than the town of Herndon, strangely enough. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's actually happening within the town of Herndon. So let's go to our first slide. This is, everybody knows, is the Silver Line Phase 2. You can see Herndon Station right here and Dulles Airport. And interestingly enough, one of my favorite slides, which I actually don't have today, is that the footprint of Dulles Airport is actually larger than the town of Herndon. We're 4.2 square miles. And we are thrilled that the Herndon station is located where it is, because it would have been super easy for us to miss the metro opportunity if that station had landed 1,000 yards in either direction. So Rodney talked to you about all the great public amenities and the development and things that are going on the south side of the toll road, and I'm going to tell you about what's going on the north side of the toll road, which is the town of Herndon. So here is our town boundaries, if you're not familiar with exactly where the town of Herndon is. All the things that Rodney spoke with you about would be below this on the map. The big star right in the middle is our downtown. It's about 1 mile from the metro station. And I know we're here to talk about metro, but I'm going to talk just a tad about downtown as well. We are thrilled. We are the only incorporated municipality, the only town on the Silver Line, and we are really working to capitalize on that. Our downtown is a historic downtown. We have a historic district with businesses and residents there, and we're working with Comstock Partners right now through the process of a public-private partnership to redevelop just under 5 acres of land into a mixed-use development. And I'll close out by telling you a little bit about that. But we really think that it's going to be key to the success of our metro station that people step off the train, and just like Rodney said, you know you've arrived someplace, that all the stations don't look the same. When you step off the train at the Herndon station, you're going to know that you've arrived in the town of Herndon, and we're hoping to share with you what we have to offer. We're working with Fairfax County on a multitude of transportation components, including a circulator bus and our trails and reconnecting all of those so that when you get off the train, hopefully you're not going to have a car to get around town to do all the things that you need to do. We're working on that. So what's it look like today? Well, this is what it looks like today, guys. The challenge that we have in our metro station area north of the toll road is that it is fully developed 1980s style low density office park. And most of those buildings are pretty close to fully leased. So that's a challenge. Maggie's nodding her head. This is not a surprise to anybody in this room. So we really had to work to incentivize those landowners to be interested in moving toward that more urban, transient-oriented core type neighborhood when the train arrives. So right now we're excited. The bridges are going across the toll road, to the pedestrian bridges, which is was really nice to see. This is the bird's eye view right now. 575 Herndon Parkway here on the left side of the screen was just sold. You probably read about it this weekend because it was in every business journal, Business Wire, everything wrote about it. We're very excited. Kidder has purchased that, and they're looking to do some redevelopment, very preliminary, obviously, since they just purchased it. But you can see a whole lot of those parking craters that Rodney talked about. So obviously the redevelopment will include mixed use, much higher density. I think we have up to a 4.3 FAR with the right high quality development that you're going to have a really good project to reach that level with us in the town of Herndon. But all of this is, of course, right up against the toll road in that 38 acre slot. There will be, when the station opens, there will be a sidewalk here, you see right down the middle. And eventually, as these two projects redevelop, that will become more of a walkable pavilion, sort of like when you're at Reston Town Center where there's activity at the street level, not a lot of cars and people, and of course above a mix of office and residential to be determined. Let's see, my notes with all, I can tell you the story, but I gotta look for my stats here. Construction of the station, of course, should be complete around 2019, and then they have the year's worth of safety checks and all those sort of things to make sure that it's up and running. Our Herndon transient-oriented core, which I'll show you on the next page here, is this area. Let me skip to the next slide really quick. You can see it a little bit better. As you can see, nice and built out. Lots of parking. Yeah, it has its challenges. But one of the articles this weekend that was talking about the 575 Herndon Parkway piece mentioned that the town of Herndon's leadership over the past several years has been really focused on infrastructure and getting ready for the arrival of Metro. And I have to say, I'm really proud of that. That was a shift in focus for the town about 8 years ago, and we have done a lot of work. Our staff has killed themselves. I really can't thank our community development and DPW and all of those groups for all the work they've done. But This is the area, it's 38 acres, so our whole metro area is smaller than one of the developments that you just mentioned. So we do try to, I meant to say this earlier when telling the Herndon story, we are a small town with a worldview. We have 24,000 residents who live in our town. We're 4.2 square miles. We are 10 minutes from Dulles Airport, and soon when the metro arrives, we're gonna be able to hop on the train and see the world right from the town of Herndon. We've rebranded ourselves as a next generation small town, really trying to capitalize on that innovation, being part of the Dulles corridor. It's huge. We have not only Amazon Web Services, but hundreds of other smaller technology companies that are doing all kinds of things like sending satellites to orbit the Earth to check on illegal fishing that's going on in the Indian Ocean. I mean, there are all sorts of crazy things going on in Herndon. So we are thrilled to hold on to that small town feel, but while embracing this opportunity that is before us. Let me back up a little bit. Yep, so we did adopt our HTOC plan, the Herndon Transit Oriented Core, back in 2012. It's 38 acres, and there is an amendment going before the Planning Commission and then to the Herndon Town Council, actually that will be before the Planning Commission this evening, to work on tweaking some of the things that, like you said, we learn as we go. We've watched Tyson's, we've learned from things that have happened at other stations and things that have happened as landowners have come in with ideas. So we're trying to work with those landowners to tweak our ordinance to make sure that it works for the people who own the land as well as the people who live and work in the town of Herndon. And if that passes our Planning Commission tonight, it will reach the Town Council in April. Just outside the HTOC area, which is the red area, we have the Transit-Related Growth Area Plan, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's not close enough to the metro station to really be that super high, the higher density transit-oriented development, but certainly has an opportunity and will be impacted by the arrival of the train. So that includes about 100 acres, and we're studying that currently about potential roadway capacity, exciting things like water and sewer capacity. That's sort of important. I don't know if you're following Cape Town, but we certainly don't want to get into a situation like that. So there's a lot of conversations and work that's going on to make sure, what would we like to see here? What could work, but what can we actually handle responsibly as a town? So this is one of the projects that's underway right now. I see Shane Murphy sneaked in the back there. But I got my eye on you. Shane works with Stanley Martin, who is starting the construction, our first project in our Herndon Transit Oriented Core. Now this, I'm going to back up and show you on the map where it is. Right here. So it is the furthest away from the actual metro station platform. And it was a very underused, if not empty for a long period of time, office building that Stanley Martin purchased. And much like some of the other development that's happening on the south side of the toll road, it's going to be 64 2-over-2 condos. Right. So like Rodney's already explained what that is. The price point they're looking at is from just under $500,000 to $600,000 is what they're thinking these will hit the market at. Wow, I didn't know this. They've already sold 10 of those homes to date. That's exciting, since this is what it looks like right now. So those are some people who have some faith in Herndon, I would say. So we're really excited about this. It's a little lower density project for the HTOC than what I think any of us really envisioned, but since it is the furthest away from the platform, the metro platform, and also is adjacent to some single family homes and a very large park, we think this could be a nice kind of tear down into the single family neighborhoods who are obviously, have some concerns about excitement, but also concerns about what is going to be going on very near their home at this metro station area. And this is a rendering of what we think it may look like coming down the road. And you can see how they're very generous with some green space and that sort of thing to trend down into the neighborhood. So we're really excited about this project. Next up, this doesn't look like Herndon, does it? Not today. This is 555 Herndon Parkway that was purchased by Penzance in the last year or so. I can't remember exactly when that happened. They are obviously looking at mixed-use development. This is a couple of parcels down from the platform. They're looking at 3 or 4 buildings of varying height between 10 and 18 floors, and obviously a mix of retail, office, and residential. So going to be a very different Herndon metro station area here in a few years. Rodney mentioned that some of the goals in the projects were to have 50-50 residential and commercial, and Herndon is very pleased that we have been able to maintain that sort of balance throughout our town for the last several years, which is great in times of, when commercial's up, often residential is down and back and forth, and it really gives us a great balance and continuity in our economy. Also, we don't want to be a bedroom community where everybody goes home at night and there's nothing happening. So we're trying, even as we approach this, obviously it's going to shift somewhat, but we're still trying to hold on to that because we know the benefits that it has for all of us. And then adjacent, I should go back and show you where this is. Quadrangle owns this piece, which is the only green space part of anything near our metro station at all. They have come in, they're looking for a special exception to see if what kind of a redevelopment project may work in this area, and obviously it's just barely outside of our HTOC, so we'll be looking forward to working with them on that. There's a lot of transportation related projects I mentioned very briefly. I'll skip to the next slide and tell you a little bit about what you're seeing, although it's sort of hard to see. This is Herndon Parkway right here in the middle. All of the public amenities for Kiss and Ride, bus service, large parking garages will all be in the Fairfax County side. Thank you for people who are coming to the metro station. We obviously would like to provide amenities for the people who live in the town of Herndon, so they don't have to, if they are in a car getting to metro, they don't have to drive out and around and into Fairfax County to get to their metro station. So we're looking at a bus drop-off and pickup. They're in final design. There's, of course, utility right-of-way and acquisition that begins soon. We're hoping to complete this by 2021, which is good since the metro is coming in 2020. We also have a future route of Worldgate Drive, which may extend from where it is currently into this HTOC area. Van Buren Street is an adjacent street. It's actually where, when I showed you the Stanley Martin development, Van Buren Street goes right through there. We are working right now on making that a complete street with bike lanes and wider sidewalks and cycle tracks, because that's going to be our metro station is surrounded by single-family homes just outside of the radius, so we're hoping that people are going to be walking, biking, and trying to get to the station, not in a single occupancy vehicle car. I mentioned briefly that we're planning for trail redevelopment and connections. Herndon sits almost at the midpoint of the W&OD trail, right between Washington, D.C. and Percival. So we're kind of the midpoint. People come from each direction, stop and turn around. But we also have a connection of trails, Folly Lick, I'm gonna forget some of them, Sugarland, multiple trails, and my favorite supervisor is here, John Faust. He was instrumental several years ago. We learned from Tyson's. There was the Tyson's, Tim Sams, these are the craziest acronyms, but it was the Tyson's Metro Station Transit Committee that looked and made plans for trails and allocated funding. And Supervisor Faust stood up and said, well, if it's good enough for Tyson's, it's good enough for Herndon. And we had the same thing. And we've had money allocated in Fairfax County's budget to assist with our trail planning and implementation since we are part of the town. So the design of our cycle track from Van Buren Street and the metro station all the way to the W&OD trail in downtown is underway right now, and we really appreciate the relationship that we have with Fairfax County for helping make some of these things happen that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And of course I have to talk about our downtown redevelopment project just a little bit. The first slide I showed you how our downtown is right in the middle of, the bullseye really of our town. This is about 5 acres that we're working to redevelop. If you've ever been to Herndon, you know where Jimmy's is, right here. So it's right across the street from Jimmy's. It's also right across from Old Town Hall and the depot. This is the W&OD Trail, and just behind it you see our town green where you come to Friday Night Live, which thank you, Chamber, for continuing to sponsor that. We're about to hit our 23rd year. Very exciting. So this is going to be, we're super excited. It's a public-private partnership with Comstock Partners, which I see Maggie Parker is here, and I don't know if anybody else from Comstock is here, but we are in the process right now of going through the due diligence so we can finally get to closing and break ground. It's going to be an exciting project. Like I said, we're the only town on the Silver Line, This is the pretty pictures that everyone likes, but what we've heard loud and clear from our residents is, hey, we love being in Washington, D.C. metro area. We love being able to get on the metro super quickly. We also love our small town downtown. And so we have committed, along with Comstock, to creating that. It's going to be a mixed-use project on a very small scale, 3 and 4 stories with a 54-foot height limit. It's going to have restaurants, retail, 281 luxury apartments, and an art center in use in the middle, because we know that people come to Herndon for arts and events and Friday Night Live and Art Space and Next Stop Theater and all these events. And so we want to have a core of that right in our downtown to attract people when they come to Herndon, not just to enjoy what's going to be happening at what's really going to be the urban core, which is the metro station area, but also our small town downtown. And I'll just close by saying we are totally cool with Tyson's being trendy, because Herndon is hip Herndon, so look for it on Twitter. It's a hashtag all over. So I'll see you're trendy and raise you a hip. So anyway, thank you for having me today. We are very excited about what the future holds for Metro and Herndon and our downtown, and we look forward to continuing to plan it together. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't have a slideshow. I didn't know I was speaking until Friday, but I do have a lot to say, and I'll say it quickly. First of all, let me say I do represent the Drainsville district, so some of you are probably wondering, what the heck is that? Well, it runs from Arlington all the way to Loudon. So, and then it runs south to down Centerville Road to Frying Pan. So it's really a gigantic district with unbelievable amount of activity. It's right up against Tyson's. The Metro first phase came through McLean, which I represent, into Tyson's. Now it's, as you know, coming out the toll road. I represent the town of Herndon. However, the town council and the mayor do the land use planning in the town. Outside the town is mine to plan. I have the innovation station, both sides of the innovation station. So that's what I've been working on the Dulles Road project since I was probably about 12 years old, it feels like. But really, it's been a long time, long before the project broke ground. And Tyson's, we did actually a 5-year planning process for Tyson's before we adopted the comprehensive plan. So anyway, so here I am now, just very excited about what's happening out here in the Dulles corridor. It wasn't mentioned, but the activity around Wheelie is really significant, and Reston, the rail hasn't even gotten to Reston, and it is on fire. I mean, it seems like every board meeting we're approving something gigantic in Reston. You like that. Okay, but the next, the future really is, in my opinion, at the Herndon and innovation stations. The Herndon station, brilliant plans that they've put together. Innovation, we've also got great plans. And what we have at innovation is something that I think is the first time maybe on the entire run through Fairfax that we've encountered, and that is some open space. We on one side, the north side, is the CIT, and as you know, the only thing over there is the CIT building. On the south side, there wasn't much right at the station. The Rocks property is being developed, but there's a lot of open space down there. So we have so many huge projects going on. I wanted to say that just overall, from a county standpoint, I wanted to say something dramatic has happened. And that is, we've got a new county executive. His name's Brian Hill, and it's the first time in decades, I think, that the county has gone outside the county and brought someone in. And we're really excited. I can't wait till you get to know him a little bit. He's an energetic guy. I think he's really going to lead the county in a good direction, and the Board of Supervisors is really excited about working with him. So I just wanted to mention that. I wanted to say that there is, a lot going on with development, but as a county supervisor, I get excited about that. I'm also the chairman of the county's Economic Advisory Commission, so I'm very excited about economic development, but the other side of that coin is the infrastructure to serve it. And one thing that I'm really pleased with is the commitments that developers in my district, I don't follow it as closely in Reston and Wheelie, but in the innovation area, the commitments they're making to infrastructure are very impressive. But the needs are enormous. I'm looking here. I wanted to just give you an idea of the most of the land use cases I was going to mention have been mentioned. But I wanted to, I know I have the transportation numbers here, and I want to share them with you. They're huge. Just in the innovation area, the road network, $750 million is going to be needed to build the roads to serve the planned development. Schools, we need a couple new schools. We just got a developer who dedicated the land for a new elementary school. That's huge. So everybody's working together. We're committed to make this, we know it's a big thing, but we're going to make it work and we're going to make it successful. There's also going to be a bridge. See Scott York? We worked on this a couple years. It was not easy. There's going to be a bridge. Yeah, it starts in Fairfax or Loudoun, depending upon your perspective, and lands in the other jurisdiction over the toll road. So you can imagine the cooperation that needed. But that's what's happening out here. We're working closely with Loudoun County, with Herndon. We're going to make it a very, very successful area. The other thing that was mentioned was the Herndon Metro Access Study. That is not just Herndon accessing the Metro, and it's not just the Herndon Metro, but it's the Innovation Station Metro as well. We studied it. We come up with some really good plans for bicycle, bus, and pedestrian access to those stations. And then we come up with a commitment from the Board of Supervisors, committed $21 million to implementing those access studies. That's just at those two stations. We have similar plans at Reston and Wheelie and in Tyson. So the commitment is to make sure that with a $6 billion investment in Metro Rail, that we're going to be able to, that our constituents and residents will be able to access it. So anyway, just tons and tons of projects. I'd be happy to talk to anybody about any particular one, but I'm not going to keep you any longer today by going over them. But I look forward to answering your questions whenever we're done. Thank you.
Hi, thanks so much. I don't have a whole lot to say. You've been very well briefed, but I do want to represent that Comstock is very excited about being a partner with the town of Herndon in the downtown redevelopment. As you may know, we are at the Reston Station, the Wheelie Reston East project, doing a large redevelopment project. We're out at the last or first stop in Loudoun, the 772 station, which is being called Ashburn, on a greenfield project. And to have the opportunity to work with the town of Herndon, its citizens, its staff, and its council is really just, it's a beautiful thing. What we look to do with this jewel in the middle of what the mayor said was a real jewel for Fairfax County, being one of the very few towns in all of the state, we look to continue the energy that exists with the businesses, refresh the scenery a bit with some great architecture, and really work closely with an already vibrant arts community to create a real spot in downtown. It sits right on the W&OD trail, and we benefit from that in Reston in terrific ways. The activity on there, it's like a superhighway on the weekends. We look to, as the mayor said, with some transit connections and perhaps some jitneys to offer people who are working or living in the station area to come on over for a taste of something different. People are hungry for community, and that's what the Herndon project offers. That's what the Herndon Metro Station area offers, because you're surrounded by the town of Herndon and some Fairfax County neighborhoods. That's certainly what Reston offers, and why its growth is exponential. It's always been the biggest tax revenue provider to Fairfax County, but it is just going gangbusters because people want that community. And I'm preaching to the choir, I know, but I do have to say that at one of the not very many public hearings we had on our involvement in being selected as the development partner for the town, we had a number of speakers come out, and they were all positive, and they were, for the most part, young. And that is unusual in Fairfax County, and what we want to do is applaud them for coming out and being involved, and to give them a little something for it. So anyway, we look forward to continuing to work, and look forward to working with the Dulles Chamber. This corridor is ready to take off even further. Thank you.